Hey everyone, it's Rabbi Shmuel Pollen. Welcome back to the Light Unto the Nations show. I'm not feeling so well today, but I am like the Rocky Balboa of rabbis because it's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how many hits you can take and keep on going. And I'm going to keep on going no matter what. So, we're going to talk about prayer. And as you may or may not have heard, there have been scientific studies done about prayer, and it definitely helps for the person who's praying. Whether it helps for the person who got prayed for is another matter. There are contradictory reports, and it's really not clear if it helps. But these people doing the studies are not rabbis, and they don't know the truth about prayer. And the truth I'm going to expose to you today might be quite shocking. So stick around until the very end. What everybody thinks is prayer is not exactly what prayer is. What you're thinking it is like a request for something. But let's go with that for a moment. Let's just say it is a request. Now, if you request something of someone, you may get it or you may not get it. There's no guarantee. So everybody who's asking, why aren't my prayers getting answered? If it's a request, it's not going to get answered every single time. It will get answered sometimes. And sometimes someone who doesn't pray will have his prayer answered even though he didn't pray. The truth is, with God, everything affects everything else. And that's the way the world works. A butterfly flapping its wings in Australia can cause a hurricane in California because everything is symbiotically connected. And in order for your prayer to be answered, for your request to be answered, God will actually have to undo all of the present, all of the future, and even all of the past. Everything would have to be recreated in order to accommodate your request, accommodate your prayer. And that's a lot to ask of God. But let's take a prayer into a deeper dimension and look at the Hebrew word for prayer, because if you want to get to the truth of the matter, you always got to get to the Hebrew word, because the world was created with Hebrew. So the Hebrew definition is what it actually is. And the Hebrew word for prayer is tefillah, which means to connect. Tafel, connect. So what's connecting? Well, you are connecting with God. And that means you are connecting with God's plan. And in a way, we could say that your prayers are all already answered. You just haven't changed your perspective on what you want. If you would really know what you want, it would be exactly what you have. That's the funny thing about prayer. The deeper you go into yourself, if you can change to the circumstances and say, the world is telling me A and I want B, really I should want A. And then the world will be giving me exactly what I want. So if you wanted to go to law school and you got rejected from all the schools, you have the backup option of going to dental school, and then you may realize that dental school may have been the best plan for you in the first place. You may have a better career that way. So one thing to do is to take the attitude that what God is doing for me right now is probably something good. He generally does good for me. And even when he does bad, it's really actually good. There's always the good will come out in the end. And in the world, the good of the entire world will come out in the end in the Messianic era. So it's all good. And tefillah, the connection is the meeting of the minds. It's bringing you with your requests into a meeting with God. You have what you want, he has what he wants, and you make them align. You make them line up. And then you start getting what you want. But really, it's not, request is not the main idea of prayer. It's actually called, in the Hasidic philosophy, a war, because Satan doesn't want you to connect. And when you pray, you're always going to have negative thoughts about doubt, about God, about what you're doing, about your day, about whether you like what's happening, about the desires and lusts that you want, your addictions, your trauma, everything will come up when you pray. So it's like a war because you have to constantly push these things aside with both hands, as it says in Hasidic philosophy. Push them aside with both hands. You can, and you should, and you will be able to get rid of these thoughts and pray wholesomely. But you have this animal soul and you have this godly soul. And prayer is that moment when they come into battle. And you have to face that animal soul which is bringing up these thoughts and really subdue it. And every time you win a battle against it, it weakens. You become stronger. Your godly soul becomes stronger. You become closer and closer to your true purpose. You become closer and closer to your true self. So prayer is that time, and this is what it really is. This is what prayer really is that time to subdue your evil inclination, to subdue your animal soul. And you are doing that, and that is working no matter what, no matter what the scientists say. You are being effective when you push aside these negative thoughts while you pray. So praying is the time to push away negative thoughts. Your day is crazy, um, so you can't really subdue negative thoughts on the fly as well as you can during prayer when everything is quiet and there's no distractions. And you can just sit or stand there for half an hour or an hour or whatever you do. If you're Jewish, there are set prayers that last about an hour in the morning, and then there's like 20 minutes in the afternoon and 20 minutes in the evening. And if you're a Muslim, you have 4 prayers, or make up your own way that you pray. Um, but the fact is, you can have less distractions, and you're going to be able to really tackle those bad thoughts, tackle your trauma, tackle that which challenges you, tackle that which makes you do things that you know are wrong, challenge that which makes you want to lie to get out of situations, which makes you want to lust for people that are forbidden to be lusted after in the Bible. Now we're going to go back to the fact that it's a request, because a request is also sort of a meeting of the minds. You request it and God accepts or rejects it, and then you're going to meet of the minds. At the end, you're going to have either what you wanted or what he wanted, and then you're going to have to adjust yourself and adjust your life around dental school. You're going to have to adjust yourself around the second option, which God views as the first option, which God views as the best option, and which you will realize is the best option in the end. But there are still ways to get your prayers more likely to be answered. And I want to go through 5 of them right now, just quickly. 5 ways to get your prayers answered, the requests answered, so you'll have a meeting of the mind, so God will actually do what you want instead of just what he wants. So the first thing is to connect first and then ask. Think about gratitude. Think about all the things that God does for us, all the amazing aspects of the human body, and the eye and the lungs and the heart, the heartbeat. Where does the heartbeat come from? How do we get the ability for our bones to stand up straight so well? It seems like our bones should just fall apart, but they stand up straight in sort of a magical way. And to think about the things that God does for us, it makes it more likely that he's going to receive and fulfill your prayer, just like with a person where you butter them up, you compliment them, it makes it more likely that they're going to do what you want. Same works for God. So that's number 1. Connect first, have gratitude first, and then ask. All the better is to actually take on something for God, to do something different that you wouldn't have done yesterday that you will do today. I'm going to be a little bit more careful with my time. I'm going to be a little more careful with other people's feelings. I'm going to help someone out. I'm going to compliment someone. I'm going to let someone else win an argument and just be humble and let them, express themselves and not try to win every battle and, run and beat every light. So that's number 2. Take on something for God. It's called a hachlata in Hebrew, a good decision, that you're going to study the Bible more, that you're going to pray more, to do what you're doing more often, and you're going to pray with more concentration. You're going to give um, a penny in a charity box that you get from some charity. Um, if you're going to use what you get from God, and this is number four, that makes it a lot more likely that it will be received and fulfilled. So if I want the money because I want to give the tithe to the poor, because I want to give more charity, well, that's a more effective prayer. And I can attest to that. And all of these are things that I can attest to, and many others in my movement and among Orthodox Jews can attest to. And they work for me and they will work for you. So have in mind a certain plan, so a good plan, and tell God that you need A, B, C, D, and E in order to effectuate that plan. So use what you get for God, and He's more likely to give it to you. The fifth one is to connect to a holy man or a holy woman, because my mentor, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he was much, much older than me, but he had an unbelievable record of things that he said being fulfilled, even so much as wars, which way a war will go. The Gulf War, will anybody be hurt by all the scuds sent over by Saddam Hussein? He said, everybody will be fine. He gave a blessing, and it happened. No one was hurt. It was unbelievable. It was an unbelievable miracle. And praying by holy people's grave sites is a known thing that's done in the Bible many times. And the success rate of prayers just goes way, way up when it's being funneled through the holy person, because the holy person goes to God and God really listens to that holy person because they've given up so much for him. And it makes it so much more likely that your prayer will be resolved and fulfilled. Um, Another thing about prayer that it does, and nobody can dispute this, is that when you ask for something, you have to articulate it. So you have to actually say what you want, and that forces you to make what you are is in your head concrete. And that will put you in the right mindset to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish. It may just solve your problem just by speaking out what you want. If you have to say it so clearly because it has to be in your words. It has to come out in your words. So that could actually make your problem go away, because a problem articulated is a problem half solved. 90% of the problem is the fact that you can't exactly articulate it. So once you've prayed, 90% it's articulated, and the problem is just waiting to be solved. It's just about to be solved. You'll have a much higher success rate through that, and nobody can deny it. So it's about connection with yourself. What do I really want? And what do I really, really want? Um, if you don't get a response that you want, try to find the good in the situation, because God is probably giving you something good that you don't realize. And we have to recognize a larger philosophical point here, that the question of whether prayers get answered, and the fact that they often don't get answered, and there's so much confusion about it, and that it's not really clear that prayers always get answered. That we can't just ask for A and get A. It doesn't work like that. It's not a slot machine. We have to work at it, and we have to do these things. We make it more likely, but it's not perfect. It's not a perfect science that you can pray and get what you want. It might be ultimately good, but it won't be the exact thing that you want most of the time. And the reason for that is because it is connected with another question, which is, why do bad things happen to good people? If we think about it, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, that's the same thing as, why does prayer not get answered? Because everyone in the Holocaust was prayed for, everyone was praying for them. So if that prayer would have been answered, there would have been no Holocaust. You see that? You see how it's the same thing? Whenever you're trying to get God to do what you want, you are saying that this is bad and I want to get out of it. But if there's a reason for why bad things happen to God people, there's also a reason for why your prayers are not answered. So we have to keep that in mind, that it's part of the mysteries. Why bad things happen to good people. I have many explanations about it on my channel, and we can talk about it and argue about it. But deep down, we like challenges. Deep down, we like challenges, and sometimes we even like the occasional horror movie. And sometimes God makes the occasional horror movie for us. And that is one of the reasons why our lives are often so challenging and sometimes horrific. And it leads some people to say, which I don't agree with, that life is suffering. But it is not suffering. There are many wonderful things around us if we open our eyes. But we like challenges, we like horror movies, we like strong feelings. So we want things to happen more than we want nothing to happen. We would rather have something bad happen than have nothing happen. We would rather have a world with the Holocaust than have no world at all. So the situation with why bad things happen to good people is a matter of putting on certain glasses to be able to see things God's way, and to even see things the way we see things, and realize that we are made in His image, and we do things that He does, and we wonder why He does it. And you have to ask yourself, well, why do you do it? Why do you watch horror movies? It's hard to understand why you like horror movies, but you don't like horror movies on screen. People actually like Schindler's List. People like that movie. They enjoy watching that movie. So why are you enjoying suffering? You're enjoying suffering because it's strong emotions. You like strong emotions. So why are you faulting God for also wanting strong emotions? And we could say, well, that's just a movie and God does it for real. But in reality, and we can talk about this in future videos, our soul is beyond this world. To us, even the Holocaust is a movie to the essence of our soul. The essence of our soul was never affected, and it was all just a movie to us going through the Holocaust. So go through my other videos to learn more about why bad things happen to good people, and that will help you understand why your prayers are not answered. And we told you ways that your prayers are going to be more likely to be answered. And we talked about what prayer is really for, about connection, about meeting of the minds, about figuring out what you really want, about articulating what you really want. And in so many ways, prayer works. Prayer does work for all of these reasons. God bless.